Well, hello, hello, hello. It is Elson 932 on YouTube. Thank you for joining us here. JRX TV is with me. We are here for the final week of Married at First Sight UK. And they had us going for what, 6 days out of the week? 6 days out of the week? You know, we have lives and jobs, okay? We have lives and jobs. How are you, JRX TV?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. So far, so good.
Hey, cross country cruise, her and Sam. Glad to see you here. And anyone else, if you could just hit that hit that like. I'm sorry. Hey, Ottawa, glad to have you here with us live. Just hit that like button, y'all, and because we got to get through this because we don't only have the couples that went to final vows. We have everyone that has ever been here on the show. I was like, where these people come from? Why are we here? Why are we here? Why are we back?
Hmm.
What were your thoughts on this week? Your overall thoughts?
Wow, it was a marathon. It took forever, like the amount of episodes, but some of it I felt was padding, having to bring everybody back who had left the show previously, and it wasn't a reunion. It was just actually to come back and just not just be messy, but like to catch up with everyone. There's no need to come back. And that extended out maybe 2 or 3 episodes, I think. So, but I'm glad we've come to the end of this journey. We crossed the finish line. Let's chop it up. Final vows.
Yeah, because we got to talk final vows, and then we got to talk to people that came back.
Yeah.
Let's start with the people who made it to final vows.
Mm.
Let's start there, and then we could get to the who also ran.
Yeah.
So, final vows. Okay, who would you like us to start with?
Final vows. Let's get the easy one out the way first. Let's go with John and Abigail.
John and Abigail. So y'all, they had their final vows where they continued to declare their love for each other. They had a wonderful final date. And they let us know that they are still going strong. They're still together. Abigail, I done seen your Instagram, girl. You tried to give me a panic attack that you and John weren't together, but they are still going strong. They say next steps for them are moving in together and talking about having kids, but they are in it to win it. What are your thoughts?
Man, this couple did it the right way. If there is a right way, they definitely tick the box. They met, married at first sight. There was an attraction level there. Their communication was solid throughout. There were no messy or sticky incidents. They hadn't had an argument throughout the entire experiment either, which some people said, could potentially be a bad thing. But no, I mean, if it works, then, why break it? So, yeah, they seem happy. They've progressed their relationship as well. So it isn't just like a honeymoon period thing. Seems like they've had the relevant conversations in order to carry on life after the show. And they've said the love word, the 4-letter word that a lot of people couldn't manage to say. They managed to say it quite effortlessly when they were ready, wasn't forced. So yeah, and everybody's happy for them. So congratulations to Abby and John for surviving.
You're right. They didn't force it with each other. They didn't force having to say it. Um, John was quick to say he loves her, and then Abby took her time. But also with them, we find out that they came in late.
Yeah.
They were one of the late couples. So it tells us that the timeline, you don't have to start, it's how you finish. And these two, I really thought they were planned for a very long while. But what are your thoughts, JRX TV? As you said, they have not argued, have not had an argument at all. Do you think that's bodes for a healthy relationship, or is somebody just holding stuff in?
I didn't get the impression that anyone was holding anything in. There was, I don't even detect that there's like a dominant person in the relationship and a submissive one, or any particular trauma or issues from prior relationships were playing a factor. I didn't get that at all. So I'm going to assume that everything is just all good, and it's refreshing to see a couple sell through. And as you rightly mentioned, they had less time than everybody else to gel, but yet it didn't seem rushed, didn't seem phased. It seemed like they just went with the flow, trusted the process, and were fortunately happy with who they were paired with. And voila, at the end of the experiment, we see a commitment both sides and happy faces all round.
Yeah, I agree with you that it didn't seem like anyone particularly wanted to, come out on top. Neither one of them was kind of like bringing the baggage from a previous relationship. That is an excellent assessment. And they do have baggage. They have acknowledged they have baggage, but it wasn't baggage that they brought into the apartment or into the experiment to kind of like, disrupt what they have together. And yes, Sam, we do like this. Well, at least I can speak for myself. I do like this couple, but I thought they were a plant at first. Okay. I did think so. And I think sometimes, John was coming on a little bit strong with the whole I love yous and, the amores. But hey, that is just my projection. Abby loves it. And guess what? Abby is still married to him, living happily.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So we wish them, of course, well. Excited to see more of their journey. And they're showing us that Married at First Sight UK can spawn a loving relationship.
Mhm.
Where would you like to go to next? Because we have, two more loving pairs.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the two blokes.
Davide and Kia. So they
Yeah.
are still together, y'all. They are still loving it. They do acknowledge that they do not see each other 2 days for the week. I know that work demands calls one of them away, but they are saying that they divide their time up between, Kia is in London and Davide is in the suburbs. So they are certainly having a great time. Also see them on social media, going to the beach together, going out to London together. And
Mhm.
they have had some emotional ups and downs, and they have been a safe space for each other. So what did you think about them?
Yeah, so for the most part, this couple seemed quite strong and solid. Then we had a few flare-ups. First to do with the cats that Davide has. Um, Kie's not a fan at all. So there was a tantrum of sorts that was thrown, and that potentially was their first major issue. Um, then I think the distance thing as well, because they both live quite far apart, there was obviously the conversations with their friends and family about the possibility of one of them moving. So there's a bit of concern about that as well. But again, they got to final vows and said yes. And that's the name of the game.
Yes, they did say yes, and they are, how can I say, they are totally, into each other, into each other's lives. And the fact that they say they feel safe with each other is all, I really needed to know because I'm like, okay, then y'all are really in this to be in this. Definitely for the long term.
Mhm.
So I don't have anything else to say about Davide and Kia. So let's go to the last loving couple. Rebecca and Bailey, we find out that, at the commitment ceremony, Bailey went first and he did choose Rebecca. He's going to find some way to make it work, even with the distance. Then we find out Rebecca says, hey, I know, it's up to me to move because you do have your daughter where you are living now. And Rebecca decided to take the chance to be with Bailey
Yep.
and they are making it work. It's a lot of long commutes, and you'll certainly tell us about that, JR. But there are a lot of long commutes to get to each other, but they are trying to make it work. And Rebecca says that she is ready to make the move to where Bailey's world is. So, and they're talking about not only moving in together, but after that, having children. What were your thoughts? And let us know about that commute.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bailey lives in more of a seaside town and has his own business there. Plus, he has his daughter. Um, Rebecca was definitely hesitant to uproot because she has her own business. I also noticed that her mother was, pouring it on quite thick. Um, I won't say manipulative because, she really does care about her daughter clearly. It wasn't malicious or anything. I just think there was like a separation anxiety issue with the mom. It was like, she doesn't want to see her daughter go too far away from the fold. It's still an experiment at the end of the day, and the mother hasn't gone through the process. Rebecca has, so there may be a little bit of skepticism as to, the possibility of leaving everything behind to go and start somewhere else. But again, they managed to overcome that. Bailey seemed very solid in his relationship throughout the process. Um, Rebecca also, I think she gradually warmed up to Bailey quite early. She was saying a lot of stuff about who she was looking for, and she was worried that Bailey may not necessarily fit the mold. But things turned around. They've been quite solid ever since, and happily starting a new life with Bailey and his daughter.
Yeah, she got out of that alpha male talk, real quick,
Absolutely, got
you
rid of it
know.
very quickly. Soon
And
as they, as soon as they hit the sack, that was it.
not as soon as they hit the sack, no. So you're trying to say that Bailey effectively proved he was an alpha male. I was trying to say
Exactly.
she grew out of that whole I need an alpha male. You're saying he is, and he showed her.
Yeah, he showed her. Prob- Probably, probably did some celebrating after the first night, beating his chest. You know.
Hey, even that is not enough. It has to be more for her to uproot, considering, as you said, her mom is scared of her, leaving the nest, leaving and going so far. Because the mom said, you know, she's always known her daughter to be, like 8 minutes up the road.
Yeah.
So, and Rebecca has a beautiful home where she is. We don't know if she will sell that and, you know, get a spot with Bailey, but definitely I do like the progression. I did like that they took a chance,
Hmm.
and it has worked out because the chance could have been, oh, well, we tried, but they have tried and realized, hey, they have made a decision from that
Hmm.
try. And I really like that for them because it's like, are you going to make a concerted effort or are you going to end things on your commitment ceremony day? And it's like, they were like, okay, let's try this. And I think they actually really did try.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think they really did try. It was lovely to see, and it was lovely because it was a tough space to be. As you said, Bailey has not only his business, but he has his daughter, and he is a very active, involved parent. And
Mhm.
though Rebecca loves him, she knows she can't ask him to uproot and move away from his daughter, but they have such a love for each other. It was very interesting watching them navigate that.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So that is Rebecca and Bailey. Again, wish them all the best. Look forward to seeing more. And I kind of thought they were still together considering some of the little Instagram clips that they be doing. But hey, it could have just been fodder from being on the experiment.
Mhm.
But that is Rebecca and Bailey. Who would you like to go to? I mean, there's one that said yes and end up not together, and there's one that said heck to the no, no, no.
Yep. And that's Reese and
Leisha.
Leisha. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So Reese and Leisha decided to say yes. We always knew Leisha was going to say yes. Reese, when he went home, I was a little bit skittish because Reese always says, I don't like the drama. Sorry, that's a bad interpretation of his raspy voice. But they both said yes. Reese said he wants to give it a go and let's see what happens of this.
Mhm.
Well, lo and behold, and even lower, we find out that according to Reese, that Leisha was entertaining the conversation with a gentleman outside Also, she told him that a football player was interested in her.
Mhm.
I believe she's doing that just to get him to react, but that's not healthy. But also, she says, "Hey, if this don't work out with you, I have a football player to lay back on." But also, when Reese was talking to another young lady, giving her a dose of that medicine, Leisha reacted and gave the drama, according to Reese. Okay, I'm interested to hear more about Leisha's stance on things, but okay, but it is definitely interesting to find out that exactly what we saw, according to Reese, what we saw coming home from the honeymoon has happened in the wild. What are your thoughts on Leisha and Reese? Because they ain't together no more.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought was Leisha's got previous form on this. The honeymoon, she left the seated area to go and sit next to another guy and chat for an hour, like talk to him for an hour, like random dude on the honeymoon on the way there. And she was intoxicated and had thrown up on herself too at some point. So um, that's the type of stuff that Reese clearly is not a fan of. So fast forward to the end of the experiment when they're out together. Like you said, they they were in a nightclub, I think, and Reese had seen her with another dude. She was sitting there conversing, and he decided to converse with some lady that was in the place in the same vicinity. Now, Leisha uh, went over and basically accused him of trying to flirt with and chat up this girl. So Reese is saying, well, I'm doing exactly what you were doing when you were over talking to this random dude. So what's the problem, right? So that must have caused a scene. And Reese was just like, oh no, we're in public and we're doing this. Oh no, it's a double standard, too much drama. And Leisha is a very emotional person. Not just, everybody has emotions, but she expresses her emotions a lot. She's very quick to break down and cry and make a scene about things. And at times I would wonder why Reese doesn't console her as much. But I think it's because she's played that card so often, he's just kind of like, I'm sick and tired of it now. Um, and I also think the feedback from the experts was correct. I think Leisha tends to um, use tactics to try and make Reese jealous in order for him to get a reaction, give a reaction. Or um, she uses it as a way to get him to want to be close to her. And it backfires every time because he's just like, no, that's too much drama. Just communicate. He just likes things simple. Seems like a very simple guy to, speak to. You say your bit, he says his bit, and that's how you resolve things, right? But she seems to be more of, okay, well, I'm going to do this to try and get you to do this. And if you don't like me, you don't love me, then there's something wrong with me. That's what she keeps on verbalizing. So I can kind of see where Reese is coming from on that.
Yeah, I can see it with what you are saying. I could totally see it because it seems like she pushes forward to get a reaction, and Reese's reaction is like, more, and I mean this, wholeheartedly, it's like a turtle to pull away and get into a shell or just go away because he doesn't want this whole dust up. He doesn't want somebody trying to flare up his emotions. He wants chill. He wants relax. Let's get along. Let's just have a good time. But tell me directly, hey, I don't like this. I don't like that. I'd rather do this. I'd rather do that. Don't try and get to me, round the side door. Don't try and get me to profess any kind of affection by saying someone else is interested in you. Because Reese is the type like, oh, they are? Okay, then bye. He's the type, bye. I wish you well. Go find the happiness you deserve. Now,
Mm.
what I did appreciate about Reese that I wasn't too keen on at first is usually when someone says, I don't like the drama, they usually are drama, but Reese was not. It's very rare to find that because usually I don't want the drama. The person is the eye of the storm. And Reese is more, I don't want the drama. I'm not bringing drama. I'm not doing drama. We ain't about drama. He has been chill. Now, Leisha, I think Leisha really wanted, as she said, the fairy tale. She wanted the love. She wanted the Prince Charming effect. It was like, for me, watching Leisha, it was like an avalanche. She wanted that so much that she was doing so much, but it wasn't what was needed in order to give that effect. If she would have just chilled, and he told her that we saw at least twice, chillax, chill out, calm down. It will happen if it is going to happen. But again, it's the fairy. I think the fairy tales have done us a disservice, ladies and gents. I think the fairy tales have done us a disservice because those are what written, produced, directed by people. That is not real life.
Mm.
But I do wish that she finds whatever form of fairy tale that she wants in her life.
Mhm.
Anything else about this couple?
Um, Other than the fact that Reese really was taking his time to say that he loves her, which is the reassurance that she was always looking for the whole time, as if those words are going to change her uncertainty about him. Because there was a level of uncertainty. She was always trying to get him to say it. Um, and because she had arrived at that place before he had. So he wasn't ready to say it until, you know, I guess right at the very end. But still, you know, I think sometimes love isn't enough. And as we saw when they arrived at the dinner party separately, um, Leisha was really taking it very badly that they're no longer together. I think she really had her heart set on leaving there with him. She still clearly has feelings for him. And I think he does have feelings for her, but he just realized a lot sooner it's just not going to work between them.
Right. And the sooner you realize, the sooner you can go through the healing process and the sooner you can start a journey to find the person that is right for you.
Exactly. Because what would have been worse if he had come to the realization it's not going to work, but stayed with her regardless? Then we would be saying, you know, Reese, you don't like her, set her free. Like, don't play in her face and pretend. You know, if you haven't reached that stage 7 weeks in or whatever it was, and she has, then no need to string her along. If you don't think it's going to work, just be very straightforward and honest, and just politely say it's not going to work.
Right. Right. Adwa, oh, you mean Reese being calm? That's why they paired him with Grace through couple swap. Yeah, could be. Grace did need a little bit of calm down, just a little bit.
Mm,
Now, the last couple that made it there, and I don't know why every time I saw them, when I saw them walking up together to give their final vows, all I heard was that old Western music. Dun, 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 dun. I was like, oh no, ladies, we're not slinging today. We are not pew pewing today. But that's what I heard, that's what I felt when those two came together, and they didn't disappoint because y'all, Lee and Leah, Lee went on that this is not for her. She is not going to be with someone who continues to flirt and disrespect. Okay. Leah, though, y'all, Leah came out swinging. Leah let Lee know that she felt managed and not met. She felt managed in that moment. And I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. How can I say it? I was shocked that she said it, not that what she felt. And Lee took to real hard what she said about, oh man, of all the things. And Leah said a lot. of all the things Leah said, that whole managed really, really hit a mark on Lee. And you're at the final dinner party, the final reunion dinner party. Guess what, y'all? Lee changed her blonde locks for brunette locks. And I think it was to push Leah off her square. Because remember, Leah is partial to the brunettes. So I think Lee came in there. I don't think she wants Leah. I think she just came in there to stir up a little bit of stuff with that new hair. What were your thoughts about these ladies?
Yeah, that could have been a petty move on Lee's part. You wouldn't put it past her to come in with a brunette look and say, "Huh, this is what you could have had," or like, if I. But at the same time, I do also see your point about the standoff. It literally was like, okay, draw. Like, who's gonna go first? And with the cutting remarks. Now, what I found interesting is I think Leah has a point. There is a huge double standard. Lee does not take accountability for the flirting that she did. She kissed Leisha. Like, I think there was a kiss on the cheek first, and she commented, she said, "Oh, you really want to kiss me on the lips?" And Leisha said, "Yes, I do." She said, "Okay, try again." And then they kissed on the lips. That's flirtation. That's inviting someone to kiss you, and that's not your partner. Right? Lee tried to really, make out that wasn't a big deal. Oh, no, if you had done it, it would have been a problem because you have stated you're attracted to her. But for me to do it, there's no problem at all because I'm not attracted to her like that. Yes, you were. You don't kiss people that you're not attracted to. And if Leah had done that with anybody else, Lee would have a problem. So
should have been skewered.
exactly, she would have thrown a fit. Now I think Lee attempted, because she went first in the vows, she attempted to really dress down Leah and basically say, "Listen, this didn't go how I wanted it to go, and your flirtatious behavior is what caused me to feel this way." So she said no, and then Leah, you could hear her ad-libbing and basically saying, "No, that is it really? That's not true. Nah, I don't believe you." And she's right. It's not believable what Lee was saying. There's too many things that transpired to disprove or dismiss what she was talking about. Leah's vows, on the other hand, were quite accurate. I don't think she made anything up. I don't think she put 2 on 10. She was very spot on with her experience and her feedback. And sometimes the truth hurts. And that's what Lee needs to understand. Leah is speaking from a place of experiencing how you treated her in a relationship. Lee is speaking from a place of being the person doing the treatment and is oblivious to how it makes the other person feel. So, Leah basically said to her, "Listen, I don't think you tried as hard. I don't think you were as open. I think you were too guarded. You kept accusing, you kept finger wagging, finger pointing, almost as if to keep finding fault in Leah at every opportunity. And then there was a lack of intimacy between them. There just was never that spark. I think very late in the experiment, they probably had a quick peck on the cheek in front of everyone. But that was the most we saw, intimate wise with them. And so that's what made it even harder for Leah to accept when Lee and Leisha kissed. How are you going to make your partner wait 7-8 weeks and only receive crumbs, a little peck here and there, when you're quite ready to kiss on the lips Leisha, who doesn't even like women? She's not even interested in you like that. So what was the whole point of chastising Leah when Lee can't take accountability for what she did?
I mean, to be diabolical, I understand what Lee was doing when she kissed Leisha. Okay, to be diabolical. Okay. Oh, this is the girl you had the partner swap with. This is the one you went and had your bottomless mimosas. Okay, y'all were, you said you weren't flirting with her, but she was on your phone. But guess what? I got a kiss from her. That's the diabolicalness of it. I
Well,
got a kiss from her.
there was something even more diabolical that took place, and that's at the dinner party. One of the shots that Lee tried to fire in front of everybody, she said, so I just want to be clear, nothing transpired between you and Leisha, did it, on the homestay? And I felt that was to be messy.
Yes.
She was
Yes.
under the cosh, she was under fire from what Leah was saying to her. And she decided, you know what, I'm going to throw out this to cause, some dissension and just, make my escape because it's getting too hot. So that insinuation obviously angered Leisha as well. Because Leisha is like, how dare you? I'm in a
Right.
relationship already with Reese. We don't need to have this conversation right now. Why are you trying to ruin my relationship because of what you're going through with your girl? So I thought that was very petty and very messy for Lee to do that.
Yeah, to deflect drama to Leisha, already knowing that Reese don't like drama. I was expecting Reese to speak up. Maybe he did, and it was cut out. But I was expecting Reese to say something about what was transpiring. But yes, Leah definitely, she let it all out on the line in her final vow. She stood her ground with everything, and she wasn't as mean as she could have been because Leah was the one planning all the dates. Did we see Lee plan a date? Did
No,
we see Lee take Leah out and do anything?
no.
So Leah is saying, I'm doing all this effort. I'm still being chastised. I'm being diminished. I'm being
Hmm.
dressed down. Even when I don't do something, I'm paying penance for your previous relationships.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not
Or,
saying that Leah, could be, all innocent, because it could be that since she's not getting anything from Lee that we're seeing, she could be seeking just regular, chat and companionship for anybody on the cast.
yeah, listen, she was always trying to keep Leah in the cat house. Notice I said cat house, not the dog house, because they're women. Um, Always trying to keep her in the cat house, always trying to chastise her, always trying to push her away or freeze her out for something that she might have said or done. Um, and so I can understand when Leah said she felt managed. Also, when the couples all got together, Lee again was being very petty. As soon as Leisha walked in the door, no, I think it was Leisha. She said, "Oh, look, the woman that I was gonna sleep with, or something like that. No, the
Yes.
woman that I kissed." And she walked over to go and greet her and give her a hug. And that led to the conversation that allowed Reese to be filled in on what happened. Lee sat down with him and said, "Yeah, I kissed Leisha. Basically, it was nothing. It was just a kiss on the cheek." Because I think, um, you know, rightly, Reese had to be informed about what happened. Um, and you could see how he took it. He wasn't really peed off with it. It seemed like he was just disappointed that it was another thing that had been happening in the relationship. But he wasn't jealous.
And what I did do, thank you for those in my comments that told me about Leah's interview out there. I did go look at it. Leah does have ADHD, and I think she also said a form of being neurodivergent. And in some instances, she's like, how she was very open about it. You know how I behave. You know how I've explained to you how sometimes these moments can make me feel. And it was still being, her being put in that position. She was talking about Lee. She's saying that the experts didn't, the experts kind of knew not to ask her certain things, not to push her to certain things. Production too knew not to push her in group settings, but she was very disappointed in Lee in certain times when things were done that she felt Lee should have known to basically handle her more gently in those moments. So I did see that, I didn't see anything different in that interview to how Leah presented herself on the show. I mean, I would love to have a conversation with Leah and Lee, but Lee is just, I could see her just the same as she was presented on the show. I don't see a drastic change in any personality or even how she carries herself. Anything else on this couple? Because I was like, ooh, it was rough, but I was like, ooh, Leah, I knew you had it in you, but you came with it.
The cat claws came out.
Oh my word, it was something else. So those were the couples. Those were the couples that made it to final vows. Okay. So let's go through the others um that also ran. Paul and Anita. Let's get this out the way. Let's get
Yeah.
this out the way. Paul and Anita. Okay, so Paul wasn't there for one of the events, but he did come for the final the final dinner party and the final couch session, which they did make it to the couch. Anita felt she was cheated out of the experiment. She felt like she came there for a marriage and this was her, I guess, last ditch effort. Paul said this journey has helped him to find himself. Now or start the journey to find himself. The expert said that is not Anita's job. That is not what you were here for. But I got to tell you, Anita, you said you were disappointed and you felt cheated. Guess what? There's no guarantee in this show. And you know who you really should be setting ablaze? The experts, because they set you up with Paul. So yes, you may be disappointed in Paul, but I would be looking at them like, why would you think? Why would you think this man would be right for me? Is a question I would also ask. But Anita giving Paul all of this, I was like, it's some of it is a little misdirected. Yes, Paul was a disappointment, but some of this, the experts got to catch some heat. What did you think about Paul and Anita?
I think Paul needed to catch as much heat as possible. But at the same, yeah, I mean, he put no effort into the process at all. I'm not even sure what he was there for. Um, there was nothing that I saw in terms of enthusiasm about the relationship. There was no attraction, no chemistry. Everything was just like, yeah, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. Or, yeah, I don't mind what happens. Easy come, easy go. I'm not really interested. Very nonchalant. Whereas Anita really wanted some passion. She wanted her Shirley Valentine moment, or Stella got her groove back moment. She wanted to meet someone, rekindle that flame, relight that fire, that passion, someone to grow together with. I had to stop myself from saying the O word, but yeah, she wants someone to grow with. At this stage in life, you can tell she's looking for a companion, some good fun, some good times, good memories. And Paul just was never it, never even looked like being it. However, saying that, I think she was very performative in her reaction when Paul and her finally came face to face. That whole thing of, I'm going to feel sick. I feel sick. He repulses you that much that you want to feel sick. Come on. And it's not nerves because you're in front of the camera. You've been in front of the camera. You've had your wedding day. You've done all of that stuff. But I could also see why she would be boiling over with anger and feeling cheated. So that when she decided to get up and leave, she saw him making a beeline for her and she decided to push someone in the way and then get out. I thought that was a little bit too much, but
I think it was Leo.
yeah, like push Leo in front. Like I said, I can understand there being some bad feeling that she's cheated, but I just think it was a little bit performative. But the guy just didn't make no effort whatsoever.
Now that moment you're talking about, I'm going to prepare a short for that to come up this week, where Anita slipped by Paul so she doesn't have to say hello to him when he enters the dinner party. But yeah, I wouldn't, I would give Paul some heat, but the thing is, we didn't stay there long. We didn't stay there long. I too was wondering why the visceral reaction to Paul. Yes, he was a disappointment. Yes, he did not, provide exactly what you were looking for in a mate or anything like that. But the visceral reaction threw me. I was like, I was like, did we miss something?
Hmm.
Because the fight or flight, the flight was, I cannot face this man because something abhorrent happened.
Mm,
That's how I took it. And I said, production, what did we miss? Because
mm,
this type of reaction can't be with a man that you didn't even move into the suites with. You always
exactly.
live separately from him. So I was like, at first, very, very scared. And then I was like, this is a performance.
Hmm.
And then I was like, then I got disappointed in Anita with that, what I perceived as a performance. Y'all, that doesn't mean she was performing. She could have had a genuine emotional reaction, but I thought it was a lot for a man you haven't seen in months too.
Hmm.
I just didn't get it. But y'all, that's Paul and Anita. Anything else you want to say about them?
I would say that Paul seemed to have some regret at his behavior on the show, the way he carried on, and that led to him being teared up, like a bit emotional about the situation. I also think he understands that he let Anita down by not giving any effort.
Yeah, he did say he's sorry and did feel guilty. And I was, though, you know, should the people who it don't work out feel guilty? Because I was like, you feel, maybe he feels guilty about being dismissive and not paying attention to her. But I just didn't like it. Felt to me like, oh, it didn't work out. I feel guilty it didn't work out, when it could have happened to anybody.
Yeah, I just think he didn't give it a try, didn't really give it a chance, and that there may be some regret. I think he may have actually missed her,
Could
and
have.
yeah, so when he made a beeline for her, I think he was really hoping on an interaction after all this time. But let's face it, it wasn't going to change anything. Their time in the experiment was over anyway. So,
Exactly. Exactly. But wish them well. Okay, these y'all are in no particular order, y'all. This is in just in the order in which I have the thumbnails when I move them around. Who was notably absent?
yep,
Ashley and Grace.
good grace.
Notably absent. We
Hmm.
didn't even hear they were invited and declined to be here. We didn't even hear that.
Hmm.
That Ashley says nothing out in social media, nothing at all. He's just having drinks with some of the other maths participants. That's
Hmm.
about it. That's all we hear from him.
Yep.
Grace, we still hear her talking about how Ashley has behaved throughout the experiment. That was the last post I saw her, because people are coming at her in the comments. And y'all, please don't do that. Okay? Please don't do that. If you have something to say, write it in your diary and chuck it in the bin. Don't go on social media to go after someone in their comments. But these two, notably absent. I wonder, is the production crew trying to avoid a lawsuit? What are we doing?
Um, there's a thin line between love and hate, and it seemed like that line's been crossed. And I can see where both have their opinions. Grace, I'll start with. Um, you know, she describes herself as a staunch feminist. I think she started off with a mindset that is probably not conducive to the relationship. However, she did warm up to Ashley for a brief moment, then began to finger wag, chastise, tell him off, and the rest is history. From Ashley's perspective, I think being a single, jovial guy in the manner that he is, I think a lot of his jokes and one-liners and conversation talking points as a single person don't quite translate into a relationship format with someone like Grace, and that caused problems for him because she was ready to pull him up on anything that made her, um, disappointed or upset or unhappy. It could be a joke, it could be him touching her, it could be something about, do you like my outfit? Yeah, well, I prefer you wear this outfit. What? You're telling me what to wear and how to dress? That's how she'll go and spin it. So I can see why Ashley wants no parts, because she's pretty much trying to soil his name and ruin his character at every opportunity. Something goes down, she goes to the group and she starts trashing, dumping all over him. And I think that's what led him to get frustrated to the point where he no longer wants to be a part of the show.
But also remember, when he would express his frustration, he would not even be supported by the experts.
No.
So, even though with Ashley, it's like, okay, he could show up there. Someone that showed up single.
Mhm.
Um, Ashley didn't even come there. I could understand, because the experts were like, Ashley, you need to do better. You need to listen to her. You need to. No validation of Ashley's feelings at all.
Mhm.
At all. We never heard the experts say, well, not never, I'm being facetious, but we barely heard the experts tell Grace, you need to do better. You need to work on this. You need to do that. We've seen it maybe a couple times, or bring her walls down to let love in. But
Yeah.
Ashley was always taking the brunt of stuff and always have to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's get the full picture out there. I didn't
Mhm.
just say that to be, a D, as he made a joke about her.
Yeah.
Everything was chastisement. So I understand Ashley's like, why would I come here? I'd rather go out and have drinks with the cast than come
Mhm.
in here and y'all paint me in a certain way again.
Yeah. So yeah, I can understand why Ashley feels aggrieved. It wasn't until the very last sit down with the experts, where they had them sit down individually, where the experts really listened to him. And even still, they gave him constructive criticism and feedback based on what they'd heard from Grace and also what he'd said to them. But I think Ashley was always trying to give context for things, because the way
Yes.
that Grace was putting it out there made it seem a lot worse than it actually was. It made it seem like there was always something malicious or nefarious. And he was like, no, I'm just a jovial guy. I'm just trying to have a good time and get to know her and this, that, the other. As I said, the jokes didn't land, so that a lot of the attempts just backfired. Um, Now, I do think that um, them not coming back was a good thing, because it would have just been mudslinging. I don't think they have anything positive to say to each other, and it could have been pretty contentious. Um, so, not seeing them, yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but I can also understand why.
Yeah, I can understand it as well. We're not going to discount how Grace went through and had this experience of Ashley, and we're not going to discount how Ashley had his experience with Grace.
Mhm.
Both people, I think, each person has a valid point, but again, they were they were not quick to forgive and move on. Or one was
Mm.
quick to move on in some instances, and one would hold on to stuff. And if you want to have a go at a relationship, when you let go of something, you got to let it go. It cannot pile up, in the storeroom, because then there'll be
Mm.
no room for anything else.
Well, you're right. And unfortunately, it's a part of that Jezebel spirit where you try and collect information from the person. It's like you pretend to get to know them. Then as they share and open up with you, you really stop taking and doing inventory on everything they're saying. Then when you get into a negative space, you start throwing out everything that they've divulged to you in confidence, in their vulnerability, and you start weaponizing it to try and chastise them into getting them to do what you want them to do. And I noticed Grace was doing that a lot. So I'm not going to, like you said, I'm not going to diminish her experience of Ashley, because she really struggled to connect with him at times. I think she misunderstood him at times. Not Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not intentionally. But the fact is, it was enough to trigger her almost every day. And I think Ashley was just sick of being on the defensive all the time, having to walk on eggshells, having to change parts of his personality or suppress it in order to try and maintain the peace or put a smile on her face. And it just never worked. So had to go home.
Had to go home. Okay. Had to go home. And one couple that, as we're talking about home, one couple that ended things at home, at the homestays, Nellie and Steven.
Mhm.
Now, what we find out is Steven dropped the kaboom and finally admitted that he was on the dating app. All this time he was, no, 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 that's not me. I don't know how to have a verified account. And no, 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 I swear. And now he is declaring, after swearing, that he did have that dating app account. He did apologize to Nelly, and they found it to be a sincere apology. And Nelly, got her voice. We find out too he was texting Julia Ruth. He was texting her through and saying, "Hey, I want to come knock on your door. You would be the only one that's able to take me from my wife." He was sending that, and he said he was doing that in order to hurt Nelly. Stephen, that was absolutely cruel punishment. I don't know why you would do that to anyone. Just write leave. Just write leave. But Nelly had her say, even at the dinner party, Nelly got to ask someone, I think she got to ask anyone a question, but you know, she says a lot of it was a farce. He says the right things because folks are watching and the cameras are on. And I think Nelly that did summarize Stephen very much so in most of what's going on. And Nelly did see, here's also where production was cruel, but they do it. They show most of the couples what happened. Nelly saw that Stephen and April were flirting, and she saw that Stephen made breakfast in bed for April. And I wish we had asked April about the whole thing. We saw April's devastated face, but we didn't hear April's reaction. What did you think about Nelly and Stephen?
Yeah, so I definitely think that Stephen got caught, and he went from saying he was on a dating app until a few years ago, and he's been banned from there. So it's not possible for him to have logged in. Then his final admission, it was actually him the whole time. He was actually scrolling and still active on there looking for a partner. So Stephen, I definitely agree with you, El Cid. Just write no. All this performative, I'll stay for another week for now. Or I'll stay because if I don't do everything that you want me to do, then I'm gone. Dude, just leave, bruv. All right? Your attraction faded for Nelly pretty soon after the ceremony. And that could be due to a multitude of reasons. You're entitled for, if you don't feel the connection's working, if you don't feel like she's the relationship's going to be what you think it was on the day of the wedding, you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to write leave. That's why they have you on the couch every single week. Now, for someone that doesn't like drama, Stephen definitely creates quite a significant amount of it for himself. And by staying longer than he needed to, he created more and more drama. Dude, just leave. But I will also say for Stephen, his chemistry with April far superseded that of Nelly. And that could have been a potential match. If there was going to be a cheating scandal, I would have thought that it would have been Stephen and April based on the couple swap and their chemistry and their interaction. But evidently, as far as we know, by both of them, nothing actually happened. But I would have liked to have seen more questions about that homestay and how they felt about each other. I really, really thought that. Nelly finding her voice. To be honest, I heard enough of Nelly's voice the whole season. To be honest, she was quite vocal. She was quite outspoken. She, I don't think she kept quiet once. So I didn't understand that part. But she was vindicated at the end with her assumptions, and I think she's disappointed in Stephen, and also disappointed at coming on a TV show like this. This is I think she's a dentist, or yeah, I think she's a doctor or a dentist or something like that. You know, she's taken time out of work in a field where, you know, she's caring for people and doing all these different things. And she's taken that time out to come and trust this experiment, trust this process. And I think she feels Stephen let her down a lot. Not just Stephen, but even Julia Ruthless as well, and what transpired there. And finally, I'll just land my plane with Stephen and Julia Ruthless. Dude, what on earth were you thinking messaging Julia Ruthless? You've seen how messy she is. You've seen how volatile she is. You've seen how disrespectful she can be. You've seen the monologues. She called you out for being with people before you even came on the show and tried to put your business out there. Why on earth did you think that you should be instigating drinks with her? You know, oh, I live nearby to where you live. Come down and let's go for a drink sometime. Oh no. Dude, you created your own drama. And if you get with Julia Ruthless, it's going to be even more drama because she loves the trash mess and drama. That's what Julia Ruthless came here for. So, Stephen, if you want a quiet life and you want a loving partner, you've got a child already, dude, look for stability, look for calm, look for a nurturing partner. Yeah. You keep getting yourself into all these situations that you don't necessarily need to be in, bro.
He
And
got
that's
two
where I land.
kids. Two kids.
Mm, right.
Two kids. Yes, definitely. You know, the expert did give him points for his courage for coming forward, coming forth. So, you know, definitely Stephen and as you call her, Julia Ruthless.
Mhm.
Um, they are the ones they under heavy fire and they still came and showed up. And you know, that's as much respect as I can give.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, next up, April and Leo. So we find out April and Leo, they ain't about it. They, April was like, I guess the thrill was gone quick after their wedding.
Mhm.
And April was, it seemed like they had a friendly, kind of banter, at least cordial. But I was like, something was missing there. I felt that of all the performers, I felt that was performative. I felt that was performative. She said she loves love, she wanted it, and she didn't get that from Leo. I felt I don't know why I felt that was more performative. You take it away. Let me know your thoughts on April and Leo.
Well, she's gonna she's always gonna say that, you know, Leo needed to do something. He needed to uh act a certain way. His personality needed to change. She put a lot of emphasis on what he needed to do, as if he needs to wow her. He needs to really impress her for him to stand a chance of it working. And I don't think um, that was a place where Leo could thrive in. I don't think he was comfortable. You're asking him to be someone he's not, pretty much, and he can only be himself. I don't think he knows how to be anyone else. He might be quite plain, quite bland, quite deadpan. Um, but the chemistry just was not there from the start. Leo, I think, tried to do things a little bit more. He tried to be a little bit more malleable, try and put a smile on her face, maybe take her out to dinner, we heard. Always paid the bill, tried to treat her like a lady, but he just never got anything back. Um, Now, there was some scolding going on from April's side as well. And looking at the way Leo comes across, I don't think he would have taken that, very warm and received that well. But he tried. I think he stuck it out. With April, the only time her monotone changed is when she went on the couple swap with Stephen. Other than that, she was quite flat, quite bland, and came across quite boring, to be honest. Definitely not interested. But when Stephen was there, we saw a whole different side to April. Now, she also was pinpointing Ashley as the type of guy that she would like to be with. So I think it would have been really interesting to ask the question, okay, so you obviously had a connection with Stephen. If you weren't married to Leo on the show, and obviously Stephen wasn't with Nelly, is that the type of connection you would have liked to explore? Or would you still have been interested in Ashley since you picked him multiple times as the type of guy you would ideally like to be with? I think that would have been a very interesting question for April, and sadly, we never got the answer to that.
Exactly. The thing is, these two people are going to meet up each other in these county fairs when she's got to be providing the hot dogs and he's got to do the hot dog contest.
Mm-hmm.
But they will see each other. Um, I do think that she felt, a connection somewhat with Steven, but I think she kind of like pulled back. It was just eventually became friendly banter. Steven just showed her that, it doesn't have to be so much of a try hard, like she does with Leo.
Yeah, I agree.
But I wish
Yeah.
we'd asked her that breakfast in bed. How do you feel about it now that Nelly is seeing this? I wish we went there.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Yeah, I think this one was kind of doomed. And like I said, it just was a complete contrast to see her relaxed around Stephen, the flirtatious, the banter, whatever you want to call it, laughing at each other's jokes. They seem to get each other. And then obviously on the couple swap, not only were her and Stephen in the same vicinity, but Ashley was there too. So you had two possible connections on that couple swap for April in the same room doing the activities, the belly dancing and all that stuff. And I didn't really see that much of a connection with Ashley. It was definitely more for Stephen. So
yes,
yeah, I think it would have really been interesting to get that question from her.
yes, definitely. And because everybody in the chat, do like how you say the name, do like your christen name for this lady. Okay. Next up is Devani and Julia Ruth, fondly known here as named by JRX TV as Julia Ruthless. Okay. Now, what we do find is she went on holiday with Joe and they got matching tattoos, apparently. Until I see it on Joe, I don't know if they do have matching tattoos. It's just what Julia Ruth is saying. And it says, why not? And a question mark. Somehow Dean knew what the tattoos were. Huh. Okay. Um, Dean is the one carrying all the bones. So in all of this, Devani did come to the final dinner party, did come to the final, reunion couch session. He did express that he had strong feelings for her. And the experts were like, but y'all were intimate. Y'all were intimate. How do you be intimate with this man and not have feelings? She said she felt a bit of fondness. Fondness. I was struck with that word. How am I just fond of you? Okay. Devani said he was not here just for intimacy. He was here for relationship. Okay. And she stayed because it was some fondness there. And she apologized, but the experts say, hey, that's the worst apology ever. And, they asked, did she ever care about him? And it feels like she never did. That's what it felt like. So she reached out to many people. She said how she got in touch with Joe. She reached out to many people and it escalated with Joe to a Jet2 holiday. Okay. Where she and Joe got it on. Now, however you feel about it, they were done with the experiment. They were technically single, but it was like what, single for what, a couple hours. But she did say her at the dinner party, she said the worst thing she felt bad about was hurting Maeve and hurting Nelly. And then people had to push her to say, well, you hurt Devani. And she's like, yeah. So they both said, Devani said his takeaway is not being too forward with his feelings. She said her takeaway is to be thoughtful and respectful towards people. I'm getting people, did not include her husband. What are your thoughts? Because I know you got thoughts for Julia Ruthless.
I'll just clear my throat for this one. Okay. So Divani, you definitely put the div in Divani. Dude, it seems like he was extremely attracted to her and was extremely optimistic and hopeful about the relationship with her. There is nothing inherently wrong with that. The problem is when she started to show signs that she wasn't attracted to you, which was from day 2, she didn't really care about your feelings. She didn't really want to validate your side of the relationship, like your experience of her. Everything was about her, and her performative monologues were draining. So Devani really should have, and I know it may have been difficult because he wanted the process to work. He'd come on the show, thought this attractive lady, in his opinion, she'd attend in his eyes. So he really wanted it to work. I can't necessarily say he's wrong for that, but I can also say he was very delusional. The disrespect that she was dishing out, the constant criticisms, the manipulation that she was doing on him, as well as all of the other cast members, telling him one thing, sleeping with him towards the couple couch weeks, just so that they could show a united front. But then as soon as they've committed on the couch, go back to trashing him to all the other cast members. That was extremely diabolical and extremely terrible and bad mind for her to do that. So that's how you know she weren't feeling him. I get it. All of the dominoes started to fall into place much later for Devani than everybody else. Everybody else had come to the conclusion that this relationship was doomed based on what Julia Ruth was saying to them. But Devani didn't know what Julia Ruth was saying. So, like I said, I do give him some grace for that. But the writing was on the wall when you found out. And you should have, instead of writing stay to try and give her a chance to make amends, dude, you should have been out of there, bro. When you're sitting on the couch offering her blanket and she's talking about, no, I don't want it, thank you, or whatever bro, she does not like you. So you have to understand, nothing you're going to do is going to win her over. So that's Devani. With Julia Ruthless, however, listen, another person who creates her own drama, her own trash, her own hostility. She brings it all on herself, all that heat. She loves it. She revels in it in 1 minute. In the confessionals, all the performative lipstick, walking, strutting down the street in slow motion. She loves the performative nature of it. What she doesn't like is being called out for her mess that she kept on doing. Yeah. So we've already discussed that at length, the manipulative aspects of what she was doing. But there was maliciousness in what she was doing as well. Why? Because 2 days after coming off the show, you're messaging other people's former husbands. Now, not only were you messaging them, right? You've gone on a holiday, right? You've got to know Joe in a very short space of time, right? You've slept together with him, like you were intimate with him with no problems whatsoever, right? For some deluded reason, after knowing this dude for 48 hours or whatever it was, you went and got a tattoo, a permanent message engraved on your body after knowing for 3 days. There's something not right up here. Like, definitely not right. And then that was to show off the fact that you'd spent time with Joe. You've got a mark on you now to say, look, I got this from, it's on the back of her calf, I think. I got this from my time away with Joe after the experiment. That's what she wanted to do. She really wanted to come back to the reunion and rub it in everybody's face. Oh, well, I didn't leave with Devani, but I ended up with Joe. But luckily, Joe knew what was up, and Joe said, "Nah, this was just a holiday fling. This was just something to do. I needed a companion for holiday. You decided you wanted to come along. We smashed. I dashed. I'm sorry, Julia Ruthless. I don't want no parts of a relationship with you. You would bring more drama than Maeve. So, and you're performative. So, and you would blow up the spot. I'm sorry, no." So Joe left. But what did Miss Julia Ruthless do? She decided, okay, well, now I'm going to move on to Stephen. So she DM'd Stephen after coming back from the holiday with Joe. So just when you think, you've had Devani, you've had Joe, now you're trying to strike up another connection with the dude that you've been eyeing up throughout the whole experiment. She's wanted Stephen the whole time. And so she came in wanting to brag. She didn't want to come in talking about I got dumped by Joe. She wanted to come in saying, I'm going on a date with Stephen, the man of my dreams. That's what she really wanted to do. Rub it in Nelly's face. She's made a few snarky comments towards Nelly, not being strong enough. And, oh, so sad. Your man doesn't want you. He wants someone like me. Things like that. So everything she did was with malicious intent. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't an accident. You didn't trip and fall and land on the plane. You didn't accidentally pack your luggage to go to sunny Spain or Marbella or wherever it was. And you definitely didn't trip, fall and land in the bed or the balcony or the beach or wherever you did what you was doing. All right. The fact of the matter is it was very calculated and it was all performative to try and come out like the queen bee, come out like the girl on top. Right. So no, she created her own mess, her own drama. She didn't care about Devani knowing about the tattoo and her sleeping with Joe and her messaging Stephen. She didn't care about how Nelly felt. She didn't care about how Maeve felt when she was getting into bed with Joe. She didn't care about none of those things. All that she cared about was she's going to get what she wants and she's going to create as much mess and drama as possible so that she has a memorable time on the show. That's all it was about. And then once the show ends, she can go back to her pop career and basically make skits and mock the experiment for her music videos for these new age pop songs that she's trying to create. All very performative, all designed to get an opportunity. She was not there for the right reasons. I don't think it matters who she was paired with. I think Julia Ruthless is self-centered and all that mattered was stepping on people to get what she wanted to get.
Now, nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday, okay? But this holiday that Julia Ruth had with with Joe, maybe that is a Freudian slip. With Joe, here's my thing. She's saying this, she has lied before. She has lied before. I don't know, did she really go on that holiday? Or was it just a digging at Maeve?
That's true. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know if that holiday exists. We have not seen any pictures, photos, footage.
Oh,
I don't.
actually, Maeve said one of her friends saw Joe's Instagram and saw Julia Ruth's Instagram, and they were both in the same location at the same time. And that's how they came to the conclusion that they were together.
Okay, I haven't seen both Instagrams. So, yeah. Okay, yeah. The matching tattoos, yes, it was too much, Tracy. It was way, way too much. I mean, and here's the thing. This has all now eclipsed her previous assessment of Devani's behavior of yelling and shouting at her. This behavior now has eclipsed, and everybody's kind of like, oh my gosh, poor Devani. And I'm like, we have to also keep it balanced. The thing is, Devani, has some behavioral stuff that got kind of like pushed to the side because of how much Julia Ruth is just in our face about Stephen. And then even though she's saying Stephen, I wonder if Steven was to hurt Nelly. Also, maybe Steven is her preference. But if we go in on holiday with Joe, here's another thing. Is Joe and Steven more your aesthetic? Is that more the gentleman you wish to be with? Is that more your dating history? Because what I find with Julia Ruth is that she's saying this about Devani, but now we're swimming in the dating pool of the show. Is it that, as you said, Jr., is it that she wanted to snag somebody's husband and come back at the reunion dinner on somebody else's arm? And it was possibly Joe. Maybe Joe is her first preference, even though she said Steven all the time. Maybe Joe is her first preference, and Joe's like, I ain't coming back there. Okay, I ain't coming back there. And then maybe, it was like, okay, well, maybe Steven wanted to do drinks. Maybe we could pull this off. Now, do we have proof he was yelling at her? We don't have proof, but we do have Devani, who admitted that he did elevate his voice. So if Devani is saying yes, he did, and he did not deny it, I'm going to say that. But I'm with you, Tracy. We have no evidence of that. And because of her behavior, now we kind of not believing some of the stuff she said earlier on. And it's okay if Devani is not your type. It's okay if Joe or Steven are more your type. That's okay. That is okay. But to deal with it in this manner is not appropriate. Because again, even with all of the yelling and all of the toxic behavior she told us with Devani, he kept his mouth shut. He took all the hits early on where she's not attracted to him. They ain't having no intimacy. He can't come close to her with a 10-foot pole. We have all that kind of stuff with her talking about Devani. And then here it comes out that yes, it was happening. And now the veil has been lifted. And when the veil is lifted, she has gone, put 10 on 20 and kept on moving along. So my thing is, and my question is to kind of humanize her a little bit. Okay, to humanize her just a little bit, y'all. What does this tell me about Julia Ruth's self-esteem if she's going from Devani to Joe and then trying to hop the lily pad to Steven? I think it's in the gutter. It's in the bin. Because why would you, even in dating, why would you even put yourself in this position in this intertwined group? Why would you be in an intertwined group dating? But then I'm thinking about it. It could be, remember what she said about her dancing village, her dancing community, that people just date amongst each other. So maybe in her mind, it's not a thing. But I just couldn't be in the same somebody, their ex-husband from the show. I couldn't do it.
See, the problem that she would have faced if Joe had turned up at the reunion is she would have been there with 3 guys that she's been either attracted to or intimate with in some capacity. It would have been crazy. All right. All before the show's ended. And part of me thinks there is a chance that Steven and Joe just saw her as a pass around. Like, because I don't understand why Steven, after even hearing that she's just come back from holiday with Joe, I'm quite sure she would have said, I've just come back from sunny Spain with Joe and it didn't work out. He's such a dirtbag. He used me. Oh, he's a dog. Nelly was right. Sorry, Maeve was right. And then she tried to cry onto Steven's shoulder, and Steven was just like, okay, well, let's go out for a drink. And he's probably thinking, yeah, I can probably hit and quit, really. He ain't thinking about no relationship with her. Now, to get tattooed, she's got it's not his name. At least it wasn't Joe's name. But to get a tattoo with someone else, and then a day or 2 later, you're back in town and you're messaging to hook up with another dude from the show. I don't think she has a self-esteem problem as it being low. I think her chest is too high. I think her self-esteem is through the roofless. I think she is so into her, like, I can't say the exact terminology I want to use, But I think she's so self-centered. She literally thinks that she can do all of these things and she's above everybody else and she's above reproach. Um, the only time she gets rattled is when the group don't align with the manipulation that she tried to perform. When they start calling her out for who she is, whether it's Lee calling her out, Maeve calling her out, Nelly calling her out, Rebecca calling her out, those were the ones that were more vocal from the women. But Bailey as well, Ashley as well. Um, she had she had quite a few people that were saying to her, Julia, you are treating Devani like trash, and the way you have behaved is abhorrent. And she is more concerned about what they think rather than what Devani thinks or really what the experts think. She never had an attraction to Devani from the start. So that's why I think she diminishes him. And with regards to Devani raising his voice, I've seen Devani lash out on this show. I paid attention. He did lash out a few times. He used a lot of expletives. And I think he was definitely trying to affirm some type of control and dominance in some situations. But she looked at him as a diminutive little, almost like a minion from the movies.
Yes.
She was just like, nah, man, you can raise your voice as much as you want. You still ain't going to be as tall as Steven or Joe. You're not going to be my type. So you're like a little chihuahua, Devani. You're yapping, but you don't scare me. She would never be afraid to lose someone like Devani. Why? Because she's got options. And she considers those options to be Stephen and Joe, and they played into it. They fell right into a trap. Not saying that they did it blindly. They must have known. I think they were in on it because the guys do talk. They have been in settings together for 7 or 8 weeks, so I know they've exchanged numbers and they're pretty much pals. So if Joe had shared something with Ashley, I'm quite sure Ashley would have shared it. If he had shared something with Dean, I'm quite sure it would have got out amongst the guys. So if Joe and her really did go on this holiday and spend that time together, I'm quite sure somebody in the group knew about it well
Right.
before Maeve. But I will also say, Maeve, well done to Maeve for calling out Julia Ruthless. Obviously, we're going to get to, we're there now. Maeve, the way she cannot control her temper is the problem. She gets extremely irate very quickly. And that's what put Julia Ruthless back in her shell. But it's also the same thing that drives someone like Joe away from her. The emotional regulation, it's just not there. She's quick to lash out, but she's also quick to cry. And there's a lot of pent-up frustration there. If anyone has probably low self-esteem, it's probably Maeve.
Yes. When they were at the dinner, okay? Um, when they were at the dinner, yes, JR is, every time he says something, JR, I'm sorry, I gotta play
I
this.
hate to be shady unless I really have to. I hate.
You being shady today, but we love it. We love it. We love it round here. And you have to be shady, okay? Um, Maeve, when this week Maeve again showed up alone, Joe declined the invitation, okay? And you know, at first during the show I was like, okay, Joe, you don't have to be dealing with all of this. You have passing of a prominent member of your family, his grandfather. But now in the going to holiday with Julia Ruth and all that stuff, Joe, your entire slip, your entire backside is showing. I'm sorry. At the dinner party though, Maeve was, trying to talk to Julia Ruth and go at her and go at it. And Julia Ruth is just sitting there doing exactly what my hand gestures are, just sitting there and throwing her hands up closer to her face, like, yeah, whatever, I don't mind. And Maeve just lost it. Maeve screamed at her, don't do that, did it? Explanatives. It was wild. And the thing is, again, I would say just like Anita, Maeve, you have all this pent up and Joe is not there. And now you're giving it to Julia Ruth. It was, some of it is not totally her fault, but she deserves some heat, but not all the heat. But at the end, at the final commitment ceremony, Maeve did apologize to Julia Ruth for taking it all out on her, knowing that Joe bears partial responsibility for this. But my thing is that right there, Maeve's frustration and flare up and just the profanity. I was like, even if you were not doing the dirt like Joe, it's a lot.
Mm.
It's a lot. So now I kind of understand in the beginning in their honeymoon when Joe was like, we gonna need to reel this back a bit. We gonna need to handle this a little bit better. I just found that Maeve just was a little too much for me at the dinner
Mm.
party. And then by the time she thought about it, she cooled down by the time the commitment ceremony. But by the time you cool down, you done incinerated everything.
Mm.
I just, for me, the whole Maeve is just a little too much.
I think Maeve's frustration with Julia Ruthless is that when Maeve and Joe, just like all the rest of the couples, were going through their ups and downs, I think they would lean into each other to share their experience, share their emotions, and they would confide in each other to some degree. And they weren't, I don't think there were cliques, but I think there were some people who obviously got on better than others and were more supportive or being a friend at those times. So I think Maeve is extremely disappointed to hear about Julia Ruth because she's been there the whole time listening to Maeve discuss her ups and downs with Joe. So then to go and do what she did, go on holiday and sleep with him and all the rest of it, how are you a girl's girl? Like, how are you, my friend, supporting me when I was telling you all these things about Joe? Were you scheming on him? Were you plotting then to get with him? Were you attracted to him back then but not saying anything? So you're a snake. That's what I think Maeve's point was. Like, she felt betrayed. And I don't think Julia Ruth really cared, which is why she's giving the hand gestures, because she's like, so what? You know, I never liked you anyway. I'm not your friend. I'm not friends with no one here other than Davide. So, and we know why that is. You know, we've seen Julia Ruth's best friends.
Yes.
So,
yes.
right. So, she's not really a girl's girl like that. She's Mrs. Still Your Man. If you know, don't trust none of your men around Julia Ruthless because she will plot and scheme if she thinks she could do a better job than you at being their girlfriend or wife or whatever. So, yeah, she was really. I think Maeve was really justified in being hurt, but again, the erratic nature of her temper. Yes, it's confrontational. Yes, it's explosive. Yes, some people might say, "Go on, Maeve. Yeah, like give it." But no, at the end of the day, it's poor regulation. She doesn't articulate herself well, and when she gets frustrated, it just it turns into her shouting and screaming, and that's when she loses the room. So yeah, unfortunately, they didn't make it. I think Joe did make the right decision to not continue the relationship. The manner in which he did it, I don't necessarily agree with. You know, I understand the bereavement of his relative. We've discussed that before. I don't think he was given much empathy or much care about how he may be feeling about that bereavement and how it may be impacting his decision making in the relationship. But at the end of the day, as soon as he left the experiment, he decided to hop on a plane and go with somebody else's wife. So I'm not sure if I can even give him the grace to say that he was particularly feeling a certain way. He was away for a long enough period to obviously step away from the show. But when he came back, 30 seconds later, he was back in the car driving back to town, having left the marriage.
Well, come
And I
on.
think that,
I don't blame him for being back in the car with the reception that Maeve gave him. The first thing she was
yeah,
like, "You got to be kidding me,
yeah,
really?"
I don't blame him, Michael.
I was like, "Girl, could he sit down? Could you ask
Mm-hmm.
him how is your family? How is your mom taking this?"
No, she don't care.
No, apparently not. Apparently not, because it was heat right on, and he had to be like, "What?" Can I say something without being interrupted? I
Yeah.
gave him the benefit of the doubt of grieving and all that until she reared up at him, and then he
Mhm.
left. And I was like, yeah, I would have even left the show. But again, people deal with, you know, the whole grieving process. I didn't like, as I said before, y'all, that everybody else was cleaving onto Maeve and not seeing how Maeve was treating him.
Mhm.
They weren't married to Maeve. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
there's Maeve treating him as an excuse for Joe. Joe, after the fact, y'all could feel however y'all felt. He gonna say he was single, he was no longer part of the experiment, and he went on
Mhm.
vacation with somebody else's ex-wife because they both left the experiment. However you feel about that, I feel it's too soon. I feel it's too much in the mix of everybody else. It's a little, it's too tacky. It's too close. You know,
Mhm.
it's too close. But for me, I gave him benefit of doubt until, he left. And then when you're hearing all this other thing and the matching tattoo, I need to see the tattoo on Joe for me to understand it's matching. Because she could just say it's matching tattoos. But
Absolutely.
Joe not coming there, Joe was done with the show. And with done with the show, he was done with Maeve. And I wonder if this was just a catalyst to say, hey, I can safely, part of my contract, because this is a life-changing experience, I can leave the show because of it.
Mm.
I mean,
And
really.
and I'll say Joe was smart to not turn up. The amount of heat he would have got Maeve in his face. He would have had Julia Ruth going off on him for dumping her after pumping her. Excuse my French. Um, it would have been too messy, and he doesn't like drama, so he decided, no, you guys handle it. I did what I did, and I'm not coming back. Bye.
Wow, you really going there. You really going there today. You are really, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it because I got to say this.
And you're a meanie to most people.
Am I mean?
Mean as fuck.
Oh, Peter, please.
Today you are, and we loving it. This is the last episode, y'all. And JR is gonna let it all hang out. I'm gonna let it hang out just so much, but hey, we gonna let him have it. And I have reached out to many of the cast members, and I hope if any of them are watching or anyone who knows them, you're certainly welcome to come here for interviews. You are welcome to come here. You can see all of our recaps, see exactly what we've said, our interpretation, and we welcome you coming to tell us that production didn't get it right. Things were moved around. You're welcome to come here and have your piece. Is there anything else about Maeve and Joe that you'd like to say?
No, not necessarily. Also, actually, there is one thing. I would like to know how tight Joe and Devani are, because that would have been I can imagine Devani hearing that Joe had slept with his girl. Maybe he had thought they were better friends than that. So that was a level of betrayal as well between Joe and Devani, sleeping with your boy, your homeboy's girlfriend. Not good.
I would more like to ask of Ashley, because Ashley was kind of like a sounding board for Devani, and Ashley was also a sounding board for
But
Joe.
Joe,
I would
uh-huh.
like to ask Ashley, you in the middle of this, what do you think? Looking at
Mm,
both sides of the men, and ooh, and Maeve was real. I have a short for this coming up, y'all. At the dinner party, right across from Maeve, Stephen was sitting between Julia Ruth and Nellie, and she's like, "How do you feel tonight, Stephen?
yeah.
Sitting between you two ladies."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now
Absolutely.
that, Maeve, that's the kind of shade we could take. Not the
Mm-hmm.
we could
Yeah.
take the how are you feeling between the two ladies? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
How you feel? You good?
And
That
let's
we
be
could
real.
take.
That could also be another factor why Ashley didn't come back. Not just his relationship with Grace, but the fact that if he had come back, he would have been caught between what he knows about Joe and Julia Ruth going on holiday, and also the fact that he's cool with Devani too. So he would have been caught up in another situation.
Not only that, if Joe showed up, Joe would have been like, "Yo, man, you told my business." But
Yep.
again, it's not a matter of told my business. Joe knows the film was running. So at the end, Maeve did see the footage of the
Yep.
two men, in
Mm-hmm.
the Turkish bath without a shirt on. We did see the two men there chatting, and he said, "Am I, madly in love with her? No. Do I have love for her? Yes." But
Mm-hmm.
immediately they kind of like focused on he's not madly in love with her.
Yeah, because and that was unfortunate because he never said anything inherently wrong. What
Right.
he basically was saying that he's not at the same place where she is at in the relationship.
Right.
Similar to what we covered earlier with who was it? Who arrived at love before the other person?
John
Abigail and
and
John.
Abby.
Yeah, right. John said it first. Abigail, um she didn't say it instinctively back to him. She waited until she felt it and then she said it. She expressed it. And I think Joe, I don't think he I think he felt like he was never gonna reach that place where he could say it back. There's too much turbulence for him. He wants a calm life. Seems to like that, he's reformed from the wild party days. I think he just wants to chill and find a nice, pleasant, calm partner. But then it flies in the face of all of that to go and mess with Julia Ruthless because she is not this docile, nurturing, calm person. She's almost the same as Maeve. She's very volatile and very performative too.
As you
So,
said, he probably was there because, it was, just a good time. It
mhm,
was just a good time.
yeah,
But Joe did tell Maeve he was on holiday alone. So he was lying even then, possibly.
mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So to our last couple. Okay. We're going to calm down. We're going to end it on fire. Dean and Sarah. Apparently, Sarah did look quite good. Dean came into the final dinner party with a little gag gift. He put fake tattoos up his neck. They said, "Hey, it looked good on you." I didn't think so, but they told him that it looked good on him, and he was doing it as like a little jokey gab, but he still has feelings for Sarah. And here's where I have a problem with this, Sarah. They're saying that they talk almost every day, and Sarah also has him coming out and hanging out not only with her but with her dad. Okay.
Mhm.
And when you are introducing and having this man encouraging around your father, it is giving a certain note that this man could be important in my life.
Mhm.
So again, Dean has strong feelings for Sarah, and this is not helping. Sarah was finally told, hey, this can be confusing. It could be seen as leading him on, even though you don't want to. But doing this, which I think is a smoothing out for the PR stunt, doing this so you don't look so bad after all you did all week, or all season, sorry, it is giving Dean definitely mixed signals. Mixed signals. So my thoughts are, Sarah, you need to cut it off with Dean and talk to him maybe once a month. Once a month. Right. If those tattoos were real, I would say somebody needs to commit Dean. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, he seemed delusional, and she might like him, but yeah, she never would. And she says she never will. So I think it was very gracious. Now the experts said they were, a little bit more, further along. And now I think Sarah learned how she can let him down gently. What are your thoughts on this?
It's definitely mixed messages from Sarah. That's for sure. Dean is like a love-struck puppy. Um, this dude did the very performative, and I'm not surprised by how performative he was because he was performative the whole time on the show. They're not raps, they're not poems. I don't know what they were. They were like positive monologues, and it was embarrassing for her. She was like cringing, covering her face, and she really didn't like all of that stuff. He didn't know how to read the room. Um, and then to come back to the reunion with the fake neck tats, I think it was to say, oh well, do you like me now that I've got some tattoos, Sarah? Dude, you've been talking to her the whole time. She knows you ain't got no neck tattoos. You haven't missed a beat with her. You've still been talking, and I do agree. I think Sarah is basically keeping him hanging on a string. She said herself she would never find him attractive. She definitely said that her type is more like a Joe type of guy. Dean was too overweight and personality-wise just wasn't a match. She couldn't do it, but yet she still slept with him. And that can give someone false hope, especially when they like you so much, they like you a lot. So she kept breadcrumbing him, but ultimately she knows she doesn't like him. She wants to not get the villain edit. She's been reprimanded for how she treated him. So to kind of show that she's a nice person, she's kept him around. But fact of the matter is, it is mixed messages. And Dean is delusional. Let's be real. I mean, yes, she is giving you mixed messages, but dude, how many times does she has to push you away or reject your advances before you come to the realization that she just doesn't feel you? The other thing is, I did see on socials that our boy Ashley met up with her, with Sarah.
Yes.
And they went for a 10-mile walk.
Yes.
And some drinks. Now, I can't imagine going on a 10-mile walk with someone that I'm not attracted to in some way or don't have a connection with, but 10 miles is a long walk. What were you talking about? Is there a connection there? Are we possibly going to hear some romance between Ashley and Sarah?
Now, did they do it, or are they part of a walking club? Come on now. Can we?
No.
Was it just the two of them? Or was this a walking club?
It's both. It's a walking club between the two of them. Only them two are invited.
No. Oh, socials. Oh, no. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. You keep coming with these socials, girl. So here's this question. Why did Sarah get so much hate for not finding Dean attractive when Julia Ruthless never got that much hate for not finding Devani attractive? I think Julia Ruth, though, got a lot of flack because not only she's saying I think she got more flack than Sarah. But saying, Julia Ruth, what she did was she was actively being intimate with Devani and she was trying to tarnish his image with the group. So she got a lot more heat than Sarah did. Sarah got the heat for saying, he's not my type and not speaking up to say, I don't like the raps, I don't like this, and I don't like that. Sarah didn't want to seem so off-putting, but Sarah was telling everybody she didn't like Dean and not telling Dean. You're fine. You're fine. I'm like, girl, I'm trying to stick with what they show me on the screen. I'm trying to stick that there is love. You telling me that Kia and Davide, and now you're telling me Rebecca and Bailey. Girl, then we only have Abby and John.
They're both true. They're both of those couples are not together anymore. Apparently, yeah. But they made it on to the end of the show, and that's all we're discussing. Right now, as of now, they may not be together. We don't know. But there is a difference between Sarah and Dean and Devani and Julia Ruth. Dean was cringe. And Sarah, she did let him know that she wasn't feeling him. She did also let the group know and the experts. But, the way she did it at times was just not cool. But what she didn't do was manipulate the rest of the group to believe one thing and then be telling Dean something else completely different. Whereas Julia Ruthless was performative, manipulative, and deliberately evasive to try and omit certain things in order to get to the end goal, which was somebody else's husband. Where I don't think Sarah was outright plotting to get somebody else's husband, whereas Julia Ruthless was.
Really? I thought Sarah was saying that, Ashley was more her speed. She did say.
Yeah, but she wasn't plotting to get him, though.
Not
she didn't
that we
make
saw.
A concerted effort. Yeah,
no,
exactly.
She didn't. April did more of a concerted effort than Sarah.
Yeah, I would say April's chemistry with Steven is just crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, concerted effort would keep on saying Ashley's name constantly was
Yeah,
more of
yeah,
a
yeah.
concerted effort than Sarah ever did. No, Sarah just was trying to keep the stiff arm to keep Dean away from her, trying to keep that stiff arm going.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean is just
Absolutely.
holding out hope. You cannot have, Sarah, you cannot have this man mingling and commingling with your dad. You cannot. Again, you cannot.
And coming
He,
to town all the way to Scotland to come and
right.
stay down there for visits. Yeah,
Yes.
leading him on too much.
That is a lead on. That is, it may not be intentional, but that's a lead on. But I think what the intent was to smooth it over for reunion so we could say we really good friends
Yeah.
and get ahead of the press and getting on Sarah. Little did Sarah know she didn't have to do all this because everybody's focus will be on Stephen and Julia Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to do all that, Sarah. And I wonder what your thoughts are now, Sarah, about like, daggone it, I didn't have to invite you all the way down. So y'all, these are all the couples, of course, minus Paul and Anita that were, said leave. Very first couple to say leave. But these were all the folks that were a part of this season. We do appreciate it. We did not get a cheating scandal. We did not get a cheating scandal. Shout out to Wilco's Rehashed on YouTube. We didn't get a cheating scandal, which we usually get definitely on Australia. But this was very interesting season. What are your thoughts on wrapping up the season?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get an actual cheating scandal with couples that were on the show actively, but we just narrowly missed it by 2 days with Julia Ruthless and Joe. So I think there was enough trash, mess, and drama, as Wilco says. It kept us entertained at times. I did think, when we got to probably the late 20s in episodes, I was thinking, man, it's about time to wrap this up. I've really seen enough now. It's how is it going to end? And to get to 36 episodes, boy, just a little bit too much.
Yes, 36 episodes. Yeah, it was quite a bit. So this was certainly a wonderful season. UK, this is season 10. I'm sure you have been renewed for season 11 UK because this was really, really well done. I really um enjoyed most of it. But to say that, Ottawa just popped my bubble and let us know that Bailey and Rebecca and Kia and Davide are not together presently. So that leaves Abby and John. That's why I took the comments off. That's why Abby and John, who are in the far corner, because they were one of the last couples to get married, they are our success stories. Okay. They are our success stories for this season. You're fine, Ottawa. Nothing to apologize for. It sprinkles a little extra seasoning into the sauce and we love it. Don't apologize. Um, but y'all, as I said, it's been a wonderful season. I have reached out to a lot of the cast members to see if they would interview with me. I'm just happy that Channel 4 it does allow me to be able to see it from over here in the United States. But definitely, JR and I will be back for other shows, which I'm hoping it would be Married at First Sight Australia. That's another favorite of his and mine. So that comes back in January of 2026. I think at the tail end of January. And Married at First Sight Australia. If y'all thought UK had spice, okay? If y'all thought UK had spice, y'all ain't ready for Australia. And it would behoove you to go look at last season. And they do cover as many episodes, 30 something episodes like UK. And they drop it from like Sunday to Thursday, or Sunday to Wednesday. But definitely we'll be back for Married at First Sight Australia. Definitely. JRX TV, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, JRXTV on your IG. On TikTok, you can find me as JRXTV on your FYP. for your page. Yeah, you can find me on there. And YouTube, Life is Reality or Mr. VIP. I'm JRX TV. And I do reviews on these reality dating TV shows on the YouTube. Instagram is more for health, fitness, wealth, well-being. I'm a consultant on all those things, so I'm there too. And TikTok is just for fun, a lot of travel experiences, may see some gym stuff and a few other things. I also go live to discuss NBA basketball and a few other different hobbies and interests of mine. So yeah, check me out.
Yes, please check him out. He's loads of fun. Either platform, okay, loads of fun, especially IG and TikTok. Loads of fun. I will be here doing Ready to Love. I do a live watch on Fridays while the show is on OWN, and I also do a recap on Tuesdays. Later on today at 5 p.m. EST, we are doing unsolicited advice, where we give advice to folks who have asked the internet for advice. Members, we have our member Monday, tomorrow, Monday at 8 p.m. EST, where I have a lovely bachelor, which he thinks that the best thing about him is that he makes sure he comes second. Okay. Do with that as you will. Okay. We will see his entire video footage and the bachelorette that we're going to cover in Dump or Date. Also on Friday is Unscripted, where whatever you, the audience, want to talk about at 5 p.m. EST, we will talk about. That's what we will do. And the week of Thanksgiving, the following week, not this week, the following week, I'm off from work, much needed time off. And I will probably be going live every day. And members, I have some jewels for you. I have been cooking some stuff in the back, and I will be putting it out for y'all. Some wonderful things we're going to be involved in, members, that you will need a separate link for you to get to for us to have some, enjoyable time and experiences out here while we watch these shows, recap and review. So please look out for those posts, and please look out for that, certainly that information. Okay? Love is Blind Italy starts December 1st. I put that post out there. The trailer is out already. And the fact that they are not showing us a whole lot of the after the pods tell me it's going to be a whole lot of spice, going to be a whole lot of wild behavior. Okay, it is going to be Love is Blind Italy. December 1st, I'll be releasing recaps throughout the week, and then we will be doing a weekly live. And of course, we will watch the reunion live together. Okay. I thank you all for being here. Make sure you hit that like on the way out. And as I always say, I will see you on the next